Howdy folks, Nathan coming at you from sunny Colorado. It's almost winter, right? Well, if you guys are into driving in the winter, then you're going to need a big overpriced SUV. More importantly, you're going to need one that has a proper V8. In all honesty, both of these vehicles represent two different sides of a spectrum when it comes to large V8 SUVs. Now, this is the 2022 GMC Yukon AT4, and it has the brand new for it 6.2 liter V8. This is the 2022 Infiniti QX80, and it's got a couple upgrades inside from the previous model. Both of these vehicles kind of compete, but most importantly, both of them have V8s, and that's something that's disappearing. Huzzah, and behold, welcome. This is the 6.2 liter V8. Now, in the prior year model, you couldn't get this AT4 with this engine. You could only get it with the 5.3. Now things have changed, and you can now get a 420 horsepower 6.2 liter V8 that puts out 460 pound-feet of torque. It's hooked up to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Now this is the proper off-road model of the GMC Yukon, so it's the AT4 as such. It has a proper four-wheel drive system, and on top of having low gearing, it also has electronic locking rear diff. Now it is not one that you can select as a driver. It does it on its own, and it's a step up from the G80. Okay, so you have this 6,000 pound and change truck with a really big engine. You're thinking, yeah, but it's got cylinder deactivation, so it must get really good mileage. No, it doesn't. Combined 16 mpg. Alrighty, now what about the Infiniti? Well, good news if you like 5.6 liter V8s, especially ones that are in other Nissan products, because it's here too. This V8 puts out 400 horsepower and 413 pound-feet of torque. It's hooked up to a 7-speed automatic transmission, which is kind of curious because in other applications of this engine, the Nissan Titan, there's a 9-speed that you can get, right? So I don't quite understand why they didn't upgrade that. It works pretty good though. Unfortunately, it's not even as efficient as the Yukon. So combined MPG, 15 miles per gallon. Okay, kind of a bummer. Interesting thing though, this is actually a lighter truck. It weighs about 200 pounds less than that one. And it does have an all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive system, but it doesn't have the fancy locking rear diff. Howdy folks, this video was brought to you by Manscape.com. Christmas came early this year. Why? Because I have the new Performance Package by Manscaped. Let's check it out. Manscaped created the first performance kit that has you covered from head to toe, literally. Your jingle balls will thank you. This is the new Lawnmower 4.0. It has skin-safe technology, an LED light, it's waterproof, and it's awesome. Here's a stocking stuffer for you, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray. This is a game changer. And this is the new Weed Whacker. It's for nose and hair, and I had no idea I needed it so badly. And for a limited time, you can get not one, but 2 free gifts. That's including the Shed Manscaped travel bag and the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer briefs. Your loved ones will thank you this holiday season. Don't wait, go to manscaped.com and use the promo code FASTLANECAR to get 20% off plus free international shipping plus 2 free gifts. You're going to notice right off the bat that these are very different vehicles in terms of their purpose, because the AT4 is really built for doing some off-roading. As such, it is a higher vehicle, even over its brothers. But on top of that, it does have a front-end design that is actually purpose-built. It is actually built for a better approach angle than a regular Yukon. And then, of course, it has a beefed-up suspension and cool tires and everything else, but we'll get to that in a second. Then, of course, we have the QX80. Now, the QX80 hasn't changed much in 1,000 years. So since this vehicle came out, it's pretty much the same. I'm talking about platform, which of course is shared with the Nissan Armada, which of course is shared with the Nissan Patrol. Been around for a long time. The good news about that is it's strong. It's a very, very well put together platform. So you have two very different vehicles, especially when it comes to appearances and especially when it comes to front ends. Very different philosophies when it comes to what you guys are looking at. That's interesting. I've seen a whole bunch of these, the QX80s, all over Southern California, precisely where they do not belong, but they're very popular there. You'd think they'd be towing a horse trailer or something because this thing can tow over 8,500 pounds. This one, maximum towing, 8,200 pounds. But you don't see too many horse trailers going up and down Rodeo Drive, which is sort of unusual, I guess. Well, anyway, both vehicles have a very different purpose, and when you see the sides and more importantly, the wheels, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, it's interesting because if you look at the circumference of the tires, they're actually pretty close. But what we're looking at here are wheel sizes. These are 20s. The Infiniti has 22-inch wheels. These are utterly useless off-road, but they make, quite a statement on the street, so much so that this stray dog actually finds them very appealing. Don't you, puppy? Huh? Come here, look at this. Yeah, he's really interested. These, well, they're purpose-built for off-road with the tires, and as far as I'm concerned, these are the cooler ones because I'm an off-road dude. But one thing you guys got to keep in mind is that Infiniti's been doing this for a while, so this doesn't look all that different from the previous models. But these are 22-inch wheels. These things weigh as much as a planet. I'm not saying that these are that much lighter, these 20s, but man, what a difference. Now, between you and me, I'm not a huge fan of these folding steps. When you have an off-road vehicle, one that's dedicated to off-road, if you bash those things, you're gonna have a really bad day. But there are many people who need a little help getting into one of these. One of the reasons why is you do have a lifted suspension. And on top of that, GMC, well, they made sure that you knew that this is a different looking vehicle between the massive badging of AT4, the overall design with the lift, and some other little clever components, including back here. Now that is a proper dual exhaust, my friends. It's technically a quad exhaust, and it sounds divine. All right, very different with the QX80. For one thing, they haven't done a whole lot to revise it. They've updated recently some of the stuff up front and in the back, but for the most part, the overall design is about the same. That includes these funky little mirrors, and they're funky and they are kind of little. They also, if you noticed, yeah, that step is permanent. It doesn't fold up or down. That's a kind of a funny thing because this is much more of a luxury vehicle, and if I were someone driving around town, I wouldn't mind having that step if I knew short people who needed help. Personally speaking, I hate those steps because it gets on my pants whenever I get in and out of the vehicle. But back here, once again, pretty neat little thing. The good news is with that 5.6 liter V8, that exhaust system sounds pretty good. Huzzah, and open, eventually, when you feel like it. Okay, it's not the fastest opening hatch. And what you are looking at here is the regular Yukon. You're not looking at the XL, which would be about that much longer. But you still have the capacity to hold rather comfortably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. There are options depending on trims that you get where you can hold even more, but we're talking about a somewhat luxurious vehicle. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, if I fold these seats down, which are really easy because there's buttons right here, check it out. Yes. You just have to say the magic words, fold you blankety blank. And there you go, up to 129.9 cubic feet of cargo space, which is more than the Infiniti, which of course is a older vehicle. This is almost brand new, right? In its class, it's still one of the biggest vehicles in terms of cargo and passenger capacity, so it's pretty impressive. There is one thing to keep in mind though. Remember I was talking about short people? If you're picking something up and lifting it in here, this is rather high. Keep that in mind. There's a frame underneath. Dear God, it's even slower than the GMC. But the good news is it reveals a very comfortable interior. One that can, once again, hold 7 people. Now, there aren't as many configurations available for the QX80. As a matter of fact, this is the only way you can really get it. This is the top of the line. But unlike the GMC, you can't get a longer version of it. What you can get, though, is 95.1 cubic feet of cargo space. And that is provided that you, let's see if I do this right this time, fold down the sheet. Okay, by the time this thing folds, Tommy will have actually finally grown a beard. Okay, down we go, almost there. Wow, that's slow, but hey, at least it's automated, right? Unfortunately, you can't fold down the center row using anything back here. You actually have to go over to it, physically fold it down, unlike the GMC. Remember, it's an older vehicle, older tech. At least back here. The good news is, with this vehicle, some of the tech that they revised up front is pretty good. Luxury time. Very luxurious time, actually, because, man, Infiniti knows how to do seats, and they really know how to do leather. I would say that they're up there with this type of stuff, along with, say, Genesis. 12.3 inch screen, really big, which is really awesome. Graphics are quite nice. Interface works really well. 17 speaker Bose stereo system, and this whole thing here, part of this, has been revised. So you're now able to have a little bit more of a modern vehicle, because the previous generation was laughably behind the times. There are other issues though. If you guys really need a giant sunroof on your giant SUV, you're not going to be happy with this one, because this is basically what I call a postal slot. For the size of the vehicle that this is remarkably small. Once again, older tech. Still, not everybody really cares about having a giant sunroof. Driving position, like all vehicles coming from Nissan, including the Armada, you sit a little higher and you don't have a lot of drop, so to speak. So in other words, I have this seat as low as it'll go. I have a relatively tall torso, but I'm not a huge guy height-wise. Yet, if I was any taller, I would probably have to drive like this to see out. That's, to me, a bit of an issue. But for those people who are 6'1" or under, it's a comfortable place to be. But I think the GMC has a lot more to offer. GMC. Now, things are a little bit different in here, and that's because, for one thing, this is not the Denali. This is not the top of the line. What you've got here is a well-equipped, luxurious version of the GMC Yukon. And because of that, 10.2 inch screen, a lot smaller than the one that's inside the Infiniti, I can tell you that. But most of the controls in this vehicle are really well laid out. GM has stepped their game up yet again, so they're not in the very back. The seats, this I really like. It's not as luxurious as the Infiniti, but once again, this is not the Denali. Now, there are a couple things that are issues in this vehicle that I actually like way better inside the Infiniti, and this is one of them. Have a close look at this. That is park, that is reverse, that's neutral, and that's drive. Oh, low. I don't like this. I don't like push buttons. Now, I'm not the only one who says this, but a lot of you guys are like, oh, it's part of the future. It's not. There's no reason why you have to have this. There are plenty of vehicles where you can have a lever or something that's on the column. I'm not a big fan of this. And yeah, okay, maybe it clears up a little bit of space, but honestly speaking, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of this so I can have something that shifts into gear instead of having to do this. Now, by the way, you pull. Look at this. You don't push this down to drive, pull it. You have to pull these things. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. And GM's doing more and more of this. And it's a trend that's not going to go away, because in electric cars, this makes a lot more sense. And as you guys know, GM's going to be building more and more electric cars. Now, let's talk about stuff that you guys might dig. For instance, this massive piece of real estate is part of the sunroof. Let's see if I can figure this out. There it goes. And away she goes. And yeah, if you're into having a large piece of glass over your head, this is the way to go. There are a couple other things though to mention. Now, as I talked about, the screen is not the biggest in its class. It's a pretty good size though. But there are 9 speakers inside, and once again, it's that Bose radio system, stereo system, sound system, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, I've driven both these vehicles many times before. I can't tell the difference between 17 speakers and 9 speakers. It's probably my aging hearing. There is one thing I don't get about the GMC interior, and that is this little compartment here. Now check this out. You open it up and you got a little bit of space in there, but it can, well, here we go. I got my cell phone. Now bear in mind, I have a monster case on there, right? And that's about it. But there are people who even have bigger cases. It doesn't really seem like it's meant for a cell phone, and you sure as hell wouldn't want to put your garage door up in there. And there, in fact, you actually have a system here where you can dial in your garage thing from there. So this doesn't make any sense with this. I honestly don't know what you would use with this. Maybe Roman would put his chicken nuggets in there or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of strange. And one thing that is extraordinary about this truck is its ride quality. With the off-road suspension, yeah, you're paying for it, but you can feel it. It's really smooth. I'm on a really rough road right now, and I'm not feeling a whole lot. Now, off-road, we've taken these vehicles, well, its brother, which is the Chevrolet Tahoe, and we took that thing off-road, and it did really well for a heavy V8 frame-based vehicle. However, bear in mind that this has, just like that one, four-wheel independent suspension, meaning that articulation wasn't great. It was okay. But one place that this all works out is right here. Here we go, listen to this. It builds. Nice. I do wish it had a more savage exhaust note to match the cool looking rear exhaust. I really do. I know some of you guys, I don't want to hear it. Well, you know what? If you don't want to hear it, there's great stuff that Ford offers with an EcoBoost V6, and you really don't have to hear it. But for those of you who want the big V8, I would imagine a lot of you want that big burly sound, right? All right, so comparing the two vehicles, this one actually has a slightly better ride, and I suspect it has to do with the fact that this has 20-inch wheels with real meat, as opposed to those 22-inch massive rollers with a very little amount of meat. But, guys, let's remember this. Both of these trucks really, truly are happy cruising on the highway, going a long distance. And if that's the case, GMC sells one of these with a straight 6 diesel that gets remarkably good MPG and really good range. A gear lever, thank you. I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but I really do like being able to just pull something into gear. But GM is not going to change their layout because of me. Fortunately, Nissan and Infiniti are using the good old-fashioned system, which kind of is a great way to describe this whole vehicle. It's good old-fashioned. This platform has been around forever, and it's proven strong, reliable, capable. But what about driving? Well, a couple things. First of all, very, very nice in terms of isolation. You get a little bit of exhaust note, but it's never peaky, it doesn't hurt. Seating is comfortable, although once again, I would prefer being able to drop the seat down or pull it back a little bit more, just because I'm kind of a big fat guy. But the ride is about the same as the GMC, despite the fact that this is a much more street-oriented luxury vehicle. I think part of it has to do with those massive wheels, 22-inch, really, really heavy wheels. I truly like this. If it weren't for the fact that it has a less expensive brother or sister that gives you pretty much everything here, I would say that this would be the better choice. Bear in mind, both these vehicles don't really compete as they are sitting. So in other words, the MSRP on them is different because they're different trim levels. However, you can get them at around the same price. Now, the fully loaded 2022 Infiniti QX80 with the sensory package, after destination, everything else, $87,985. Now, before you freak out, keep in mind, if I had a Cadillac here, or if I had the GMC Denali version here, that would be a very inexpensive price for a high-end luxury vehicle of this size and engine size and whatnot. So, what about the GMC? Well, that one's less expensive because once again, it's not the top of the line. But you still have a price of $79,170 as equipped. So, which one did I get? Neither. Because they both have brothers or sisters that have the same displacement, same capability, but are much less expensive, and I am cheap. Its brother, the Chevrolet Tahoe, way less expensive. You can save a lot of money by getting those. So really the only reason you want these is either for the design or perhaps the luxury amenities that they have. They're both great trucks. For the Fast Lane truck and the Fast Lane car and everybody else, this is Nathan, and I'll see you next time.